Hello. Welcome to another episode of Freedom Fridays with Dana Lee. I'm your host, Dana Lee. I'm a diet recovery coach. I help women heal their relationship to food and, more importantly, themselves. And I'm really excited today to bring a guest expert on around the subject of career and job burnout. This is Gina Calvano.
Hello.
Welcome. We've known each other for a very long time, yes, going back to like 2011. So I have her on today because in the community that I have built around, with helping women heal their relationship to food and themselves, I think this is a very overlapping topic where this has to do with self-care. We really push ourselves, and there's a lot of people pleasing that goes on, and it can end up showing up and manifesting in your job in different ways, in different capacities. And sometimes you end up in a position, in a job that you really hate and you don't know how to get out, or maybe you love your work, but you feel really pushed in different areas that you're just overworked and feeling angry about it and resentful about it. So I have Gina here to present her solutions for job burnout. So From Burnout to Purpose is the book that she just published. So can we give a great congratulations to Gina for her first book? Now, this has been many years in the making. I was honored to be one of her beta readers. So thank you for asking me early on. So I was along the ride as she was putting this book together, and I want to just introduce her, let her give a little of her story and how this book even came into existence. And of course, we have taken questions from you, and we are going to have Gina answer and give some expertise there. So let's get it started. Gina, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your story?
Yeah, so I worked in corporate. I was a corporate human resources executive for over 20 years in New York financial services. That's where I started out. I came up the employee relations arm of human resources. So I was seeing a lot of people, from star performers to employees who weren't cutting it, as we would say, in their job. So I've really seen this holistic view of what do people who love their work have in common, and they're highly valued, and what do people who are not happy in their job and are not valued, what do they have in common? And over the 20 years and all the different companies I've worked in, both for-profit and non-for-profit, there were a lot of commonalities among people who were happy and valued and people who were unhappy and not valued. So I feel like writing the book started way back then. Ultimately, I transitioned from my corporate HR career. I was a head of human resources before I left corporate, and I started my coaching practice. And it was in starting my coaching practice that I met Dana at an entrepreneurial event in Los Angeles, and we've been together since. I don't think we've missed like a week other than vacation of talking or seeing each other. And that was
in 2011.
Years ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. So I think it's so funny how we originally met out in LA. However, she lives about 30 minutes from me. So here we are in New Jersey together, but we met out on the West Coast for the first time. And what ended up happening in that business circle that we both enrolled in, we became accountability buddies. And so that's what Gina means. Well, at the beginning, I think we were talking twice a week.
Yes.
And then it went to once a week, and we have moved our appointment around. But that's the thing. We talk every single week. And then sometimes we're like, you want to meet for a drink? Let's do our accountability session over dinner and a drink, or lunch, or after we do this, we are going to go out to lunch. So we go way back. I just love Gina to pieces. I'm going to be honest about, I adore you. So I want to just also share, before we get into the questions that you guys submitted, and she's going to give her expertise on that. I
just wanted to say, why I ultimately wrote the book after leaving corporate is that I just felt like there was never a solution in corporate for helping people who felt burned out or disengaged in their jobs. With my role, I always had to protect the company, and there's companies, I think there's a lot of things they can do to help employees, but what was always very important to me and to let people know is there's nothing your employer can do that will be more powerful for restoring your sense of purpose and engagement and well-being and happiness than what you can do for yourself. So that's what this book is ultimately about. It's the answer from somebody who was on the HR side of the desk. What is it that you can do to help yourself, which would be way more powerful than any policy or program or anything that your employer can do. So that's why I ultimately wrote it.
Yes, which I was, going to get to, because I know that's important, but you know me with my storytelling. Right. I'm just going to say that last week I was going through a little bit of a crisis, and I want to say that Gina was the person who, it was like the high up on my list of like, oh my God, I need help me with this clarity and help me dig me out of this. And she is she's my phone a friend. So that is, I just back up everything that she's saying. Not only I'm just excited that she put it all together for you to now have access to what I've been able to have access to, but in all different, on our phone calls and whatnot. So, so that's a bit about your book, why you wrote the book, and then specifically for who for.
I wrote the book for my 26-year-old self, because when I was 26 years old, in human resources, I had been in my first job about 5.5 years. I went from an HR intern to the youngest female assistant vice president in this very prestigious New York firm. And everything I did to get there, what I didn't know I was doing at the time was that it was putting me right on the path to burnout. So I hit the wall going 100 miles an hour. So I went on a search back then for who can help me. I talked to therapists, I talked to career coaches. I really tried to get my arms around, how did this happen? Like, how on earth did this happen? And how do I get out of it now? And honestly, I felt like I never really found a solution. I never really found anything that spoke to me about how to get out of it. So it's clear to me now that my life's purpose was to experience it and find a way that worked for me to get out of it. And that's what I share in the book. So I was a person that worked really hard, but didn't think I was a workaholic. I was a person that questioned my degree, my career choice. I was a person that wanted to connect to a calling and a purpose, but could never figure out what that was. So I just really questioned my whole life if I was on the right path. And I got myself through that. And my story is in the book. And that's who I wrote it for.
I love that, because we have parallel stories in that capacity. I've often shared with you guys how I developed my mindset course was a kind of a reverse engineering, also based on what did Dana need, 10 years ago when I was battling these food issues. And so Gina has a very similar story, writing from that perspective of like, wow, if I could, as my 26-year-old self, if I could get my hands on the answers, the clarity, the way out. And that's why I think it's just so powerful. And I'm really excited to have 5 copies here. We are giving them away today. So some of you have submitted questions. So are we ready to dive into some questions? Okay, so here's how it's going to work. We reviewed the questions and kind of came to like a synopsis. So that way it's like a general question with a lot of context in the back, which we always appreciate, because then Gina can answer the question more thoroughly. We also want it to be in a way that's going to help the whole community. So we have some questions lined up. I actually have 8 of them here. However, I entered your name into this little, so if we get to your question or not, I'm going to pull the 5 names from my little glass bowl here, and that is who is going to win a copy of the book. Okay, so that's how it's going to work. And if you're here live, say hello. If you're on the replay, #replay. So I know that your eyeballs were on this. Okay, Gina, let's do it. Okay, so the first one comes from Julia. And so basically the synopsis is, how can I find purpose and meaning when I feel so burned out at my current job?
Yeah. So this is a really important one because one of the things I really want everybody to know is that it is actually harder to stay aligned with what leads you to feeling burned out and to suffer the consequences of that than it is to acknowledge that you're in a situation that's overwhelming and leading to burnout and learn how to take care of yourself. So it's harder to stay and endure burnout than it is to learn about it, acknowledge it, and get out of it. And what I loved about this particular question is the author of the question is very aware that she is burned out and knows that it's not something that can be sustained. So I really applaud them for acknowledging it, because for so many people, it's just hard for them to acknowledge that they're burned out. And one of the things that I do right in the beginning of the book is I really go into, how can I identify if that's me? How do I know if I'm headed towards burnout or if I'm already full blown in it? And then understand how to get out of it, whether I'm just in one dimension of it or multiple dimensions, or I'm in all of them, which is full blown burnout. How can I get my arms around that and get through that? So I really offer you this, here's how to figure out if you're headed towards it. Because I personally was blindsided myself and didn't want to admit it. Nobody wants to experience burnout, you know? So I really applaud her because she acknowledges it. The thing about being in a job where you are feeling burned out, I write about this. I think the sub part of the chapter is, are you in a job where you're feeling burned out? Yay, it's the perfect place to pivot. It really is an ideal spot to be in, to acknowledge the burnout and start to get out of it. So one of the things that I write about in the book is this concept of making grand gestures. A grand gesture is something that you do where you acknowledge the direness of the situation you're in, but you consciously choose to make a different choice. So this particular person, their job is very high stress, very high energy, long hours. They're a first responder. And one of the things I would say to them specifically is that burnout for first responders, and especially people in the medical professions, it's just so prevalent. I would actually recommend that you Google burnout in the medical profession, because there are some specific dimensions there that are relevant. So I would just encourage you to do that in addition to what I offer in my book. But it's really important because she has such an opportunity for a grand gesture, because, right, her job is about saving lives. It's high chaos, high stress. They're needed. These jobs are in demand. But she still can make this opportunity to say, you know what, I want to be here and I want to contribute, but it cannot be at the further expense and depletion of my energy, of my mindset, of my sense of power and purpose, and frankly, of it draining my soul. It's just not okay. So one of the things I'd like to do with her particular question is to be a little unconventional here. And instead of telling you what to do, because I don't know your specific situation, I definitely want to tell you some things that this is not the time to do. So first and foremost, this is absolutely not the time to talk about your job with people who cannot help you with it. So I know it always feels good to vent, like to have that person that you can confide in and vent. But when you have a job that requires a lot of hours and you have so few hours to yourself, this is not the time to take that time and complain about your job. Whoever you're complaining to, I guarantee you they probably can't help you through it anyway. So talk about things that are uplifting and fulfilling, more so than about what's draining you at this time. The other thing is, this is probably not a good time to hang out with people where there is not lack of reciprocity in the relationship. This is not a good time to talk to people that drain you or that need things from you or that require things from you. I know some of those people you can't get away from. Some of those people that's appropriate in your relationship, like your children or people that you're a caregiver to. But for the neighbor or the friend that's a little bit egocentric, a little bit draining, this may not be the best time to give your free time to them. So try to stay connected with people where you really feel like there's a lot of give and take, a lot of give and take of support, of help, of listening. Focus on those relationships. Definitely, this is a no-brainer. Do not self-medicate. Self-medicate can come in a lot of different forms. This can be overindulging in things that you specifically turn to as a way to soothe feeling drained. So this could be food, this could be fitness, this could be alcohol, this could be, your edible marijuana, your edible gummies, those, if you're doing those things because you enjoy them once in a while, that's one thing, but going to them as a way to cope with feeling drained should be your number one signal that they're actually not restoring anything for you right now. For some people, it's video games, so shopping. Don't do things that you're doing it because you're turning to it as a way to cope with feeling drained and burned out.
Or I like how you shared with me earlier, we were talking about this, and it was more of like, you understand some of those coping mechanisms are a bit of addiction. So you can't help yourself. It's compulsive. So what I love, Gina had shared with me in really looking at it, like those things may take place. However, they are not under the umbrella of self-care at this time. Right. And sometimes that's how we'll like check out and I'm going to go shopping, right? It's a shopping therapy. That's not under that same umbrella of really nurturing and caring for yourself.
Go shopping because you enjoy going shopping.
Yeah.
Don't go shopping because, oh my God, I'm so drained that I'm going to go do something that could get me in trouble if I did too much of it. Too much spending, too much drinking, too much video gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Signals that they could be addictions or brew addictions. The other thing is don't continue in a job with no plan for how to cope with the continued exposure or with no plan for figuring out, should I stay or should I go? This particular person who wrote this question, I absolutely applaud her because she does have something going on the side, something that she really does enjoy. It utilizes her knowledge, her skills, the abilities that she uses in her career, but it's almost like a side hustle that she has that she really gets fulfillment from. And maybe that could turn into a long-term business down the road. Maybe, maybe not. You don't have to figure that out right now, but it's really important to have something going on that is helping you cope with the situation or helping you come to a longer-term decision about what to do with the job. Should I stay and face it? Should I ask for things to make it workable? Or should I leave and find another job? And in some cases, should I leave without having a job at all? And we're going to talk about that because we have a question about that, right?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next.
Yes.
Okay. So the next question, I just quit my job without a job. Mm-hmm. Any advice on how to step down and convince a new company that I'm serious? So Kim had submitted that question.
So first, I just want to say, you don't have to convince anybody of anything that you're serious. I feel that just having quit your job, that could go one way or the other. It could be a really bad thing, was it from a place of haste? Was it from a stress-induced reaction? Was it a blow up in the moment? But the reality is it could also be a very good thing. It could be an opportunity for you to talk about your story. Talk about your story in terms of what are you going towards? What are you moving towards? And again, it's this grand gesture of, I understand what's going on around me, but it's not good enough. It's not enough for me to give and to not receive something in return, something that's soul fulfilling and soul nurturing from my job. I really think that you should focus not on convincing people that you're serious, but just share your story. Mm-hmm. My story is, here are the things that I wanted from my job, that the current situation was in violation of those values or boundaries. And I really wanted to take a strong stand and say, no, I really want to move forward and move towards something that's more in line with what I have to offer, with what I value, with something that matches my desired lifestyle. So really, I would say to this person, just nail down your story about what you're running towards, not what you were running from. Don't regurgitate the story of all the bad, wrong, and horrible, scary things that happened in the old job that made you quit. So nail down that story.
Awesome. So the next question is from Eileen. This one is such a powerful one. I feel like in this community, it's going to be, I think a lot of women are going to relate to this. How do I get rid of guilt that I'm leaving my boss and others to do my work when I want to take time off? That guilt thing and the people pleasing and seeking approval and, oh my God, is everything going to fall apart if I leave or if I take time off? Yeah.
So for this particular question, I really like this question because it really speaks to what I hear my clients talk about over and over and over again, not always with burnout, but with wanting to connect to a sense of meaning to their work. And that has to do with guilt, right? I have a lot of guilt around wanting to be fulfilled, a lot of guilt around wanting something that's meaningful. And in this particular question, in her case, I feel like there's a lot of really harsh self-judgment going on. I can't take time off because things won't get done or they won't get done right. And I feel like there's something more to the story that she's not sharing. So my question to her, if she was here, would be, well, what would happen? What would happen if those things didn't get done? What are you afraid it might mean about you if you took a vacation and those things didn't get done? So in this particular answer, I might be a little bit harsh myself, but I feel like it needs to be put out there. There's a lot of ego going on in that way of thinking. I can't go because things won't get done. There's something in my book, I talk about strategies that unwittingly keep us on the path to burnout. And I want to read this piece of the book to you directly. This is Eileen.
Yeah, this is Eileen.
I want to read this to you. Being focused on bringing protection or benefit to yourself or looking for justification for your own sense of self-worth from outside sources keeps you feeling stuck or in survival mode. This is a depletion of your personal power that comes from working with effort. This approach is an unconscious living and working that is fueled by trying to avoid feelings of shame, guilt, grief, sadness, and anger. At best, the ego seeks to experience a sense of pride. So there's a lot to unpack in this because there are 3 egocentric strategies that I talk about in the book. And people do it from a place of, I take pride in my work, I care about my work. But what's really going on is either pleasing other people or protecting yourself, right? So again, Eileen, what I would ask you is, what have you been committed to by holding on to this story that you can't take time off? Are you really trying to please somebody? Are you really trying to protect yourself, protect your reputation, protect what people might think of you if you go out and something doesn't get done or the person who's supposed to cover for you doesn't do it the right way? Or have you really been committed to making a meaningful difference, not just for other people and at the job, but for yourself? Because the truth is, no matter how much you may think you're dedicated and you're valuable and things can't get done unless I'm there, you are not making the most meaningful difference you can make if you are not taking care of yourself as well as other people in the job. So no matter how much you may think they can't get along without you, you haven't tapped into your potential if you're holding on to that. I can't leave, because it's like saying, I don't deserve to be taken care of in order to take care of others. So again, I feel like this is like having a debit card, going around in life using a debit card where you never put any money in the bank. At some point, the bank is going to shut you down. So don't do that to yourself. And in the book, I refer to Brene Brown, where she talks about that. Talk about yourself like somebody you love, right? So would you say that to somebody else that you love and care about? Would you say to them, you can't leave here because this stuff may not get done, or the person that's supposed to cover for you may not get it done as well as you would? You know, would you honestly say that to somebody else? So don't say that to yourself, because by saying it to yourself, you're not contributing everything that you really have the capacity to contribute. You absolutely have to take the time to nurture and restore yourself.
I love that answer. I love it. That's why we wanted to make sure we got it in there.
Yeah.
Such a good one. Okay, so the next question. So this is from Erica. When work acknowledges it is overwhelming and that I just need to stick it out, how long do I hang in there? I feel like this is a common one. So thank you, Erica, for, she also shared quite a bit of context around the story. So again, just we kind of made a, synopsis of it. But that is a very common thing. There's a lot of overwhelm. I've talked to other people just over the course of the last couple of months of they're acknowledging there's a lot going on at work. But like, I don't know how long to hang in there. So it's an important one to address today. So thank you, Erica. What do you got to say?
This question reminds me of a meditation retreat that I once did. The person who was leading the retreat told us the reality is, I'm summarizing what they said, but you really only need two answers to any problem in life, whether it's your own problem or somebody else's problem you're listening to. And that answer is either A, you're right, it will never change, or B, you're right, but it will change. So it's really up to you. Either way, you're right. So in this case, you can hold on to, everybody acknowledges the chaos and the overwhelm, but they just keep telling me to hang in there. They keep telling me it will change, or maybe it won't change, right? Either way, they're right. But I feel like how long should you hang in there and how long should you tolerate it? You are never going to surface an answer to that question if you are holding on to resentments from your employer. So if you're holding on to things like, I stay here and I do what they need me to do, but I'm missing out on other opportunities, or they don't do anything for us here, even though they acknowledge things are bad. Or why should I be the one that has to leave here? I've been in this job, this career a long time. Why should I have to make a job change? And because they won't acknowledge how things are here. To hold on to thoughts like that is basically siding with the concept that the solution is outside of yourself. Somebody else has the power to change things or make things better. So what's really important is that when you identify the solution as being outside of yourself, all you do is welcome the opportunity for seeing more and more evidence that you are powerless to surface an answer around what you should do. So there's a whole section. I talk about the three main aspects of burnout. One of them is being powerless, feeling this sense of powerlessness. I can't change it. Somebody else has to change it. And the thing is that if you settle for this lack of power to do anything about your situation, when you don't know what to do, it's painful. But when you can't figure out what to do, you suffer. And to continue to hold on to that other people have the power, you're setting yourself up for suffering, not just for feeling pain. So whether you should stay, whether you should leave, right now, what I think is you're probably not in a place to figure that out. So don't push yourself to figure it out. In the book, I talk about a 4-step process of what you can do to start to nurture yourself and take care of yourself. And it's simple to do. It's a 4-step process. I call it the open method. The first step is to observe. The second step is to pause, take time off and feel what you're feeling, think what you're thinking, notice what you have an urge to do without reacting to it, without responding. The third step is to engage, which is figure out what you would do that would feel nurturing. Just do something nice for yourself. It's not about solving your problem. It's just about self-care on a soul level, self-care that would really feel fulfilling, something you can do for yourself. And the fourth step is to do it, to nurture yourself. So it's the open method. O for observe, P for pause, E for engage, N for nurture. And in that, I give you lots of ideas of what you can do to engage and nurture yourself. These are backed up by research of what has been shown to have an effect for the three main dimensions of burnout, which are exhaustion, cynicism, and powerlessness, as well as some of my own ideas of what have worked for me and what have worked for clients that I've coached and counseled. So use my suggestions so that your suggestions, your ideas of what would feel good for you can surface naturally over time. There's no answer I have for her about how long I should stay and take it. What you should do is immediately start getting into action around some serious soul care, which is what I talk about in the book.
Excellent.
And then the answer will surface.
Yeah. That is a loaded one. Like how long? That's such an individual thing, and it's based on your ability to surrender to, to the situation. And
Right.
So, fantastic. Thank you, Gina, and thank you, Erica, for submitting your question. So the next one is from Marie. How do I avoid financial ruin when leaving my job? Or she's in the process of, and that's the next, I guess, bit of fear she has in the transition.
So there's a whole section in the book where I talk about the difference between material rewards from a job and internal rewards. Material rewards are external rewards, things that you don't necessarily always have complete control over receiving. It could be things like promotions, certainly money, bonuses, pay, your reputation, what others think of you. These are all things that are outside of yourself, but they also happen to be the things that people naturally say are the most significant markers for whether or not they're successful or whether or not they have a right to feel happy and fulfilled in their job, right? But then I talk about internal rewards. Internal rewards are something totally different, and they're not often talked about, but the internal rewards are things where we do have the ability to control how we feel about not just our job, because we can get these internal rewards from our life, not just from our job. But there are a couple of main specific ways of being or feeling or things that you may experience that really let you know when you have an internal reward that you're feeling. And that has to do with feeling a sense of peace, feeling a sense of fulfillment, feeling a sense of happiness or joy, feeling a sense of confidence, feeling like you have a boost of energy, and feeling like you're growing or you're experiencing something that's lending to your growth. Maybe you're learning something. I really believe that when you are practicing experiencing internal rewards, you build the basis for being able to receive and handle material rewards. So in this particular question, the way, is it Marie?
Yeah,
Marie, the way that she worded it is, how, the question is like, how do I pivot to avoid financial ruin? She uses the phrase financial ruin. So my question to you, Marie, would be, why does pivoting have to mean financial ruin? You're the one in control of it. You're the one in control of, if there is an opportunity to pivot, am I going to take it or not? If it involves financial ruin, why would you take it? Do you honestly believe there's no move that you could take that wouldn't result in financial ruin? This is a signal to me that you're a person who would benefit from practicing internal rewards, which are totally in your control. When people have a lot of strong internal rewards in their life, these are people that the material things that you can't control are able to not only come in, but you're able to recognize them and you're able to handle them. Because for a lot of people, I can't tell you how many people in my HR career, they finally get some big bonus or some big paycheck that they were hoping for. And that's the thing that puts them in financial ruin. They have no concept of how to be responsible or what is a lot of money or, so I would just say my short answer to you, Marie, without talking to you further would be, this is an opportunity for you to start to experience internal rewards. So I would tell you to keep a list, maybe in your smartphone or your journal that's at your bedside table, and start writing down things that you noticed you were doing when you experienced a sense of peace that day, or a sense of joy, or a sense of fulfillment, or energy, or growth. Those 6 specific things I mentioned: peace, fulfillment, happiness, confidence, energy, and growth. Those build the internal rewards. And when the internal rewards are strong, the external rewards are something that we can notice, we can handle, and we can enjoy responsibly.
Fabulous.
Okay.
I love that, because it's how do we get in our power? It's from the inside out. That feeling of like, oh, it's out all outside of us is just
right.
It's a shitty feeling. It just is, So this really puts it back into like, oh my gosh, I actually can focus on the things I already feel good about. Right. Isn't that amazing?
Right.
And that's part of the answer.
Stop thinking that my fulfillment, my happiness, my joy, my sense of purpose can only be possible if I have a lot of money or I'm making a lot of money, which isn't always something we have total control over.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so the next question is from Michelle. I'm struggling to find purpose in my life since my disability, since going on disability, I would say, right? I don't like to use that. That's not your identifying factor. Right. I absolutely loved my job and had to leave them. I mourned the loss. Yeah. So it's more, not so much the question she had, but I think the overall, so what we gleaned from it is, I thought this was an important thing to contribute to our conversation today, because it is so much of what Gina's already really talked about. If you've been listening, it's, yes, work is one place to find fulfillment and purpose. And what would you say to Michelle?
Well, your life is another place. One of the concepts I talk about in the book is that there's approaching your life and your work from a place of effort, which we're all familiar with, right? Effort has to do with being focused on my aptitude, meaning what knowledge and skills and abilities I have. It has to do with a sense of setting and accomplishing goals, right? What, goals or milestones can I meet in my job or my career? And it also has to do with motivation. Effort requires motivation. Motivation comes from outside of yourself. What is somebody else doing, or what am I watching them do that inspires me? Effort and working from a sense of effort is half the equation. The other half of the equation is energy. So instead of just focusing on the aptitude and your goals and your skills and your knowledge and your abilities, focus more on developing your mindset. Your mindset is really just your attitude. It's your outlook. Do I see the glasses half full or half empty? Am I operating from fear, meaning I think something bad could happen, or from hope? I think something good could happen, right? So there's the mindset. This may be a perfect opportunity for you to explore that over developing your knowledge, your skills, and your abilities. Then there's fulfillment over motivation. Motivation is maybe going to a job every day, seeing what other people do and how that inspires you, or what dangling carrot your boss can put in front of you to make you accomplish something. Fulfillment is what you do for yourself. It's about deciding what would make me feel happy today, what would make a meaningful difference for me today. Sometimes it's as simple as buying yourself some flowers and putting them on your desk, or talking to a friend you haven't spoken to in a long time. It doesn't have to have anything to do with your job. It's just about knowing what puts gas in your gas tank. And here's the important thing: doing it for yourself. It's not about, why doesn't my husband buy me flowers? It's not about that. Why doesn't my kid say thank you for the fabulous meal I made for them today? Fulfillment is personal and private. It's what would make a difference for me, and how do I practice giving it to myself, not relying on other people to give it to me. So this time could be a good time for you to explore what brings me fulfillment and practicing that. The third aspect of energy has to do with really getting clear on what you intend, your intention for other people, much more so than the goals and accomplishments, right? When we have a job every day, we know the milestones we want to meet, the goals we have to achieve daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly. Instead of focusing on that, focus more on intention, which is, how is it that I want to impact other people? What is it that I want to enable in the world for other people? And that doesn't come just from your job.
No.
That comes from your life. Like when, for example, a big part of my intention is I really want to enable clarity, confidence, and conviction for other people. I want them to be clear about who they are. I want them to have confidence, which is owning who they are, no matter what chaos is going on around them. And I want them to have conviction. I want them to have energy to offer who they are and what they can do for others over and over again. So I know that my intention is I really want to help people get clear about what they want to accomplish. I do that all the time, even outside of my job. I don't need a job to do that.
She can't help herself.
I can't help it. But it's what ultimately it contributes to me feeling like I make a meaningful difference in the world. I don't have to earn a paycheck to do that. So this could be a perfect opportunity that, unfortunately, the disability may have just pushed something that may have been overdue for you, which is, it's not about your effort. It's about your energy. What do I do to take care of myself? Fulfillment. What do I want to enable for other people? And how can I do that in all aspects of my life, not just through a job? And then really focusing on my mindset. How do I practice seeing the good that could potentially come out of situations versus getting really clear about how things can go terrifyingly wrong, right? And there's so much. I know Dana offers so much about mindset. I turn to her time and time again because she's really helped me with it too. So they both matter, energy and effort. But this could be an opportunity with who you are with your disability to impact people in an even more meaningful way than before this disability struck and you just would have continued in the job you had. So by practicing energy, you can building your energy, maybe a new idea will surface for you about how you can not only make a meaningful difference in your life, but in another job that would be more fulfilling.
I love that. I love it so much. Michelle, I hope you love it too. Okay, so I have two questions next that aren't about job burnout, but I thought it was important to address them. So the first one is from Paulina. So this is, what do you do when you feel unheard at work, when you ask for more tasks or to learn more? Like they seem to hear you, but then they get busy and forget.
Yeah. So this particular one has to do with, I think there was that other question that we had where, right. If it will some things will change over time or it will never change over time. Right.
Yeah.
But when you feel like, is this where like they feel the job is acknowledging that things are tough, but they're just
no, this is more like, okay, I feel like this is an under potential thing. Like right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why I wanted it.
So being like underutilized.
Yes. Like I'm going to contribute some great ideas and we could improve. And I'm sure Paulina's not the only one who experiences this. Like I have things to contribute and then it doesn't seem like rubber hit the road. Did they even hear me? Like, does that part matter?
Right.
So
feeling unheard.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
Or, not contributing everything that you can contribute. This is a little bit of a slippery slope because on the one side, what I hear in that is it's that sense of powerlessness. Other people have to give me permission to be utilized to my full capacity. So I would just question, first of all, is there a clarity about what it is you intend? There's that intention word again. What is it that you intend for others? And intention not only is about what do you intend for other people, but it has to come from something you have an unending supply of to give to other people, right? It's very easy for me to help people get clear about what they want to accomplish or what they want to experience in their life. It just comes natural for me to listen and to help them really nail down their story, nail down their goals, nail down what they want to achieve from a place of meaning. what is that thing that it's easy for you to do? Is it easy for you to keep people organized? Is it easy for you to keep people happy? Is it easy for you to make things fun that would otherwise be boring? Sometimes our greatest superpower is something that we think that anybody can do that. Anything about yourself that you think other people can do it, that's a surefire sign that that's part of your superpower. Because trust me, they cannot.
I've had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah,
we talk about that a lot.
I could not organize a fabulous trip somewhere. It would be, oh my gosh, and it would be raining, right? I have other people that can do stuff like that and they enjoy doing it. So that's a surefire sign to your superpower. Whatever it is about yourself that you acknowledge as a strength, but you definitely think, oh, anybody could do that. It's not important. It doesn't matter. So I would say that look at those superpowers that you have and bring those to the situation without a need for permission. Nobody, because what you're saying is someone has to give me permission to be who I am on a soul level. That is your birthright. No one has to give you permission to do that. So there was a phrase when I worked in corporate, somebody's a high executive. She was only in her 30s and she had this extremely high level position. And people would always ask her, like, how did you get there? Like, she's so young. And she would say, I'd rather, I don't want to mess it up, I'd rather beg for forgiveness than ask for permission. That's what her name was, Beth. That's what Beth used to say. And I just used to think, oh my God, I love that. But the reality is, in all of my years of corporate, never have I seen an employee relation issue hit my desk because a boss complained that their employee tried to do something from a place of being helpful and they missed the mark. Never.
Right.
Ever. It's always the opposite. It's always about, you're not doing something I know or sense you could bring to the table, and you're not giving it for some reason, and it's really irritating or it's really wreaking havoc. But never somebody really thought they could do something that could be helpful, and it missed the mark for whatever reason. Either they made a mistake or they misjudged. That's a mess you can clean up because your intention was to do something productive or helpful. So
excellent.
Stop waiting for permission.
Yeah. Did we talk about that in here? It's like, give yourself the permission. That's really what it is. It's about giving yourself permission. Powerful answer. Love it, Gina. Okay, so this one's from Tammy. What are some coping strategies of being in a new role? So we're kind of shifting gears a little bit because I thought this was important because if we're going to talk about being in job burnout, creating drawing in what is this next position, maybe it's in the current job you're in and actually find some peace, right? It's not always about leaving your job.
Right.
However, there are many instances I move on to a new role and then there's this level of anxiety that can come up around, even if you're excited about the role, even if you feel like, oh my God, this checks all the boxes. So I thought this was important to bring to our conversation today. So this is from Tammy.
Yeah, I do remember you mentioning this question. Anxiety, that word just jumped right out at me. Anxiety of being in a new job. And anxiety to me is a red flag because anxiety around starting a new job is really just fear that's coming from a place of either not fitting in, not being accepted, right? Or from a place of not being able to figure out how to make a difference. What if I don't make what if my contribution doesn't make a meaningful difference for another person? Or maybe I'll be able to identify how to make a meaningful difference, but it will require me to give too much of myself, too much of something I don't have to give, too many hours. I'll have to go get some knowledge or training that I don't have that maybe I don't want to get, right? So there's this fear that I'll be able to figure out how to make a meaningful difference, but it's going to require something that'll drain me in some way. And then the other piece of that anxiety is that it could come from a fear that other people are going to control your ability to make the meaningful difference. And they won't give you the permission or they won't give you the accolades. They'll take your idea and steal it in some way, make it their own, right? So anxiety in a new job, I think it comes from fear of those fundamental things. All of those types of beliefs block your ability to walk the path of purpose, right? So that fear, right? In the book, I talk about the difference between operating from fear and operating from hope. I call it your faith spectrum, right? Where are you on the faith spectrum? The negative end is fear, always believing something bad might happen. And the positive end is hope, which is it's just as easy to believe something good could happen. You know, I think you taught me a phrase that I love. I can't wait to see how this works out, right? I can't wait to see how this works to my advantage.
Or how can it get any better than
How
this?
can it get any better than this, right? I can't wait to see from this catastrophe of a situation how this is going to get better, right? That's a perfect example of having a mindset of hope over a mindset of fear. So I really think that in this particular case, when you're in a new job, it's important to keep in mind that you are not contributing anything to the company for the first at least 6 months, right? You are a drain. You are a baby nursing from its mother. You are not contributing anything. And it's totally appropriate. It's an appropriate time in your job that you should be taking in versus giving out, right? So if you can get your ego wrapped around that this isn't the time for me to be giving. It is a time for me to be taking. So often, especially for women, it's a very uncomfortable proposition to be, or we feel vulnerable when we know we're taking versus giving. You're new in the job, you're taking, you're not giving, and you need to wrap your ego around that. What you can be doing is you can be listening. You should be listening to see what is going on here, what is so, how are things supposed to work, how are they actually working, and weighing that against, again, that sense of what is my personal clarity? What is it that I have an unending supply of to give over and over again? And how may that make a difference in the beginning in very small ways and eventually over time in bigger ways, maybe even ways that hit the bottom line of the organization. But in the beginning, you are taking, you are listening, and you are really trying to figure out, based on what is so about me, how can I contribute and offer what I have to offer in a way that can make a meaningful difference. I do a whole thing in the book about the difference between approaching your work from a place of offering versus giving. Giving is really predicated on, if I give, you have to receive. And you have to receive it well, right? I want to thank you. I want to praise. I couldn't have done it without you. That's all ego stuff. Working from the soul works from a place of offering. I know what I have an unending supply of to give. I believe it can make a meaningful difference. And I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to show you this idea, this concept. And you are free to take it or not for whatever reason. When people sense that energy that I want to offer, there's this disattachment that they have to do anything in response to what you put out there. They don't have to take it. They don't have to like it. They don't have to praise you for it. They can just take it in and try it on and take as much time as they need to assess it. When people sense that open energy or even that aloof energy from you, that's what pulls them in and intrigues them, right? Like, now I want to know more, because they sense that it's safe. There's nothing they have to do in response. They could just try it on and see, does it help? Could it help me or not? So in the beginning, you are taking. It's appropriate.
It's okay.
It's appropriate.
I just want to say, so that is definitely the offering. I do that in this community all the time. I'm always offering. There's no expectation on the other side. And, and make no bones about it. It's this one in the back in my ear. It's also part of really, like, how am I showing up to my community? And I've got nothing to convince, nothing to prove. I have so much to offer. And that is what I'll say. I'm offering, hey, would you like to book a call? Hey, I have this awesome mentorship program. It's an offer. That's definitely, It feels so good when I made that shift to understand it. Now I'm an entrepreneur, but we're talking in a job position. It's no different.
Yeah.
It's no different.
Right.
Yeah. Love it. Love it, Gina. Okay. So I did want to just, just chime in what Colleen had, her question. And I feel like we kind of answered it in a lot of other things, but, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And that, so she's in a job she likes and everything, but like, how do I find my purpose in my work?
Yeah.
So I feel like we touched on that a little bit when you answered Michelle's question about we don't really need to find our purpose directly in our work. But what do you have to say?
I mean, a job is a place where you can, but this book that I wrote, the reason I would suggest that you read it is because it is the preparation for connecting to a sense of purpose and calling, right? It's like the Karate Kid. It's wax on, wax off, right? It is preparing you to be able to receive it. Most people that I deal with when they come to me, they are in a state of at least overwhelm on some level, confusion, feeling stuck. There could be downright, burnout, which is exhaustion, feeling cynical, feeling powerless, or some dimension of that. Like I'm feeling just severely exhausted, not necessarily cynical or powerless. But people are in a dark place. They're in a contracted energy place. And that's why they can't see what to do. So if the question is, how do I connect to purpose and calling? What this book will do is it will transition you or tell you what you need to do to get to a place where you can be operating from a place of openness, a place of expansionness, a place where you're able to receive answers about what would having a sense of purpose and calling look like for me, and know that it feels right for you. So this is really conditioning yourself, and it starts from the self-care. And I give you the specific model, the open method, about how to start practicing that soul care, not just self-care, which has to do with, is my hair good, or is my, clothes good? Is my weight good? Is my health good? My book is talking about this soul aspect so that you can receive that information. Connecting to a sense of purpose and calling I write a lot about that. I write about it in my blogs, but purpose has to do with knowing that you're making a meaningful difference in the world. Calling has to do with what's the unique way that you do that. So the book really starts to condition you, massage your muscles for understanding what would that look like for me. The second book that I am working on is really going to talk about from purpose to calling. So Burnout to Purpose takes you from being in that contracted place to that open place. And the second book is, now how am I specifically making a meaningful contribution in the world? So I would tell you, Colleen, to read this book, you will start to garner a lot of nuggets of wisdom about how to prepare for that and what that really means to be connected to a sense of purpose and calling.
I love that. So I know there were some comments that came through and we were just so focused on answering questions, but I want to acknowledge, so Nadia said, this is a topic I never thought about. I'm excited to share this with HR. And she said, my God, this talk is so powerful. So Nadia, thank you so much for tuning in today and saying that. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation. And let me see if I know there are more comments, but yeah, I'm like, okay, let me see. So Colleen shared some things. Yes, love soul care. I know, so powerful. Soul care.
Soul care.
Yeah, not self-care, soul care.
Soul care.
Oh God, I love that. Fabulous. And Colleen said, Gina, just hearing your voice makes me feel calm and that everything's gonna be all right. She's been told this many times, and she's like, oh God, really? Now, I will just say this book is not just soft cover, it's on Audible, and Gina reads her own book. So if you like her voice here, you're going to love to listen to her on Audible, which I believe Barbara, who also a colleague of mine, she has listened on Audible. And there was someone else who just said, oh my God, Bev, who Colleen, you and I know, she found out it was on Audible and she's so excited because she was going on vacation. She's like, I'm going to download this and I'm going to listen while I take off some time from work. So nice. Perfect. Yeah. So thank you so much, you guys. And Jeanette, hello. Good to see you here today. Okay. So I want to ask one last question that is an important one. What are your parting thoughts on this? What do you want to share to tie up our talk today?
there were so many good questions, excuse me, that came in. And I just feel like, of course I want to answer them all, but it's just, everybody's situation is different and the nuances are different. But if I could really just say, look, when it comes to burnout, I would say that the most important thing that's there for people is deciding whether they should stay or they should go from the job. So the number one thing I would say, if that's your situation, that I'm in this place of burnout and I am making this decision of whether I should stay or I should go. I talk a lot about that. I have a whole subchapter called When It's Time to Quit. But I would say that you really should look at your values.
Like, she's been doing a lot of talking. Let the woman drink. And you guys, we are going to be drawing your names for our book giveaways, by the way.
The number one deciding factor about whether to stay or go are values conflicts. So really get clear about what it is you want from your job. And assess, what's missing. What does the current situation not offer? But there's a whole chapter about that when it's time to quit. The other thing I would say to the community is, excuse me, this concept of soul care. If nothing more, I want people to get that nurturing your soul matters, because we live in a world that is rife with conflict and crisis right now. And if you are here on this planet, you are necessary. Just like the rainforests and the ocean and the deserts are necessary to the ecosystem of the earth, your energy on this planet is necessary. This is not a time that people should be wallowing in feeling depleted. It is easy to get out of it. People I know have a preconceived notion that it's going to be hard, it's going to be daunting, I'm going to have to soul search, I'm going to feel like crap about myself. I promise there'll be none of that with the book. It's really about getting you on that path to enabling a sense of meaning in your life and in others' lives. And the reason that that's important is I just want people to get that your soul is worth more on this planet than anybody's ego. So that whole concept of pleasing other people, trying to live and work from a place of, if I do what other people want, then it's all good, right? No, we need your true sense of self to shine and come forward. So what you do in the name of your soul, the truth of who you are, coming out there and being able to offer that to other people, what you do in the name of uplifting that voice is 10,000 times more valuable than what other people do to feed their own ego. So if nothing more, that's what I want.
Yes. Amen. Amen. See, I am so happy to have brought Gina to our community, because you need to know this woman. There are so many wise words, and she is such a sounding board for wisdom and clarity for me. And I'm just so spoiled that I feel like, I've had her to myself for all these years. However, very, very excited that she finally birthed this book, because it was a long time in the making. We've talked about it for years, and I know it was like almost, that's why we say she's like, I birthed the book. Like, it was a grueling process of getting it out, but she did a beautiful job. So if you loved what she had to say here, like, this is why it's like, there's only so much she can touch on in the context. It's similar to how I present, like I talk about food issues and helping, but at the same time, I have my mentorship, because I can't possibly teach you in little videos, one-offs here and there, when there's actually a process. Yes. There's a bigger process to follow, that actually, like, there's a method to Gina's madness, and her intention is for you to find your soul calling, and it's just such powerful work, and I can't wait to give 5 of these away. So let's do it. Okay. So I entered the names who had submitted questions. So we had answered most of them, but I figured, in all fairness, there were more questions than we have the book giveaway. So here we go. Well, actually, Gina, why don't you pick?
I'll pick.
You pick, and then
Michelle.
Michelle, fabulous. Okay, go ahead.
You know who that Michelle
Yes,
is?
yep.
Okay.
If I had any duplicates, I would have written the last name.
Marie.
All right, fabulous. I
Erica.
Erica, nice. Congratulations.
Colleen.
Surprise, surprise.
I know.
Master manifester over there.
And Kim.
Kim, fabulous. So Kim's actually my sister-in-law.
So what I'm going to do is I am going to send these books out, but I'm going to send autographed copies to the winners.
Oh.
And if you go to,
because these are mine.
If you go to FromBurnoutToPurpose.com, there'll be a link there where you can buy the book either on Amazon or in Barnes and Noble.
Uh-huh.
And there's also an opt-in where you can get a free workbook companion. And right now, I believe I have a special going on. My ebook is $2.99 right now.
Sweet.
Yes.
Awesome.
Through the end of this week, I believe.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. So happy to have had this conversation with you. And it's a level of expertise that I just felt this community could really use. There's a lot of energy and out there in the collective about transition. And, we hear about this great resignation, and we didn't even really talk about that today. However, this is all about why that's even happening. And this is partly why it's happening, because you're called to pull the purpose and your own sense of what you can bring to the world. And to be honest, like that is an overlapping part of my mission for what I do, why I do what I do. I have said for a long time now, I'm doing this for humanity. I want to help women heal their relationship to food because they really heal their relationship to themselves. And when you can heal that, you can bring your gifts to the world. So do you see how our topic here is very much overlapping? Very much. So I'm like, what does my job have to do with binge eating? What does my job have to do with emotional? You kind of know on a subconscious level or maybe even a conscious level, this is actually going to help you with healing your relationship to food because you're starting to deal with the deeper soul purpose and meaning. So that is why we make such a great team. And and I'm just so happy that you finally officially met Gina here and my YouTubers and on Facebook. Many of my clients already know Gina. She's done some things in my for realfit.tv and my mentorship. So thank you so much. If there are any other questions you have for Gina, do you want them to send an email or what would you like?
They can email me at gina@indigoforce.com. If anybody wants to have a session with me, I'm also happy to offer a 1-hour consultation at a preferred rate of $57. And if you do additional coaching with me, I'll offset the $57. So happy to support the Real Fit community.
Great. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, all of you, to my live viewers who stayed all the way to the end, to our replay viewers. Definitely a loaded topic. And we went over an hour, but you know what? It was totally worth it because there were so many nuggets in there. And I'm just so grateful Gina was able to do this for us today. So thank you so much. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.